What is going on, everybody? Welcome in Woodward Bets on a Tuesday night here in Metro Detroit. I am Beer, joined as always by Scott. And Scott, coming off a good night. I got to give you props to open up the show. You know, we've been waiting for one of us to qualify for one of these live finals in the NFL. Scott knocked it out last night, King of the Beach qualifier on DraftKings. So excited about that. Scott, congratulations, buddy. One of many. So it's good to get us on the board here. As your board behind us says, not only that, but you guys went 4-0 in best bets last night. So shout out to Beastie for sitting in for me yesterday, and you guys killing it on the best bets. So a big Monday night here for the Woodward Bets team. Congratulations, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, sir. As you know, as a DFS player, those live qualifiers are definitely huge feathers in the cap. But Chris, as you know, a couple times there I've been close and just barely missed. But to finally get one under the belt was nice. I had a shot at two of them there late and needed a little bit more out of Najee Harris as he was in my captain spot to pull it off. But hey, definitely can't complain. Looking forward to that. I believe it's week 11 is the first round of that King of the Beach, and then if I make it. I think there's like 225 or so that qualify, and then the top 75 from the Week 11 tournament get to go to Week 12, which is in Fort Lauderdale on the beach. And then there's a $1.5 million prize pool. I think it's $200K on top. So, Chris, it'd be real nice to get to head down to the beach, get my flip-flops on, and have some drinks, and hopefully ship that $200K. That would be a nice flight home if I would even remember it. I'd probably be pretty drunk on the way home.
I mean, what's better than leaving Michigan in December and heading down to Fort Lauderdale? So you got that. You got big time money on the line. So again, the way that one works, like Scott laid it out, 225 qualifiers, the top 75 that finish in this next online qualifier. I believe that would be. I forget what weekend. The week before
week
that.
11.
Week 11. So then those 75 move on to the live final down in Fort Lauderdale. So exciting, no doubt. And you've been close, like you said, and that's usually the good sign of you're close. It's coming. You just have to be patient. It's a good sign for you guys out there as well. You know, if you're frustrated with DFS, you're frustrated with betting, you're frustrated with season long, but you're close. You're on the verge. Keep plugging away. It comes. You're not going to get everything right. You're not going to have a good week every night. You're not going to go 4-0 in your best bets every night. It's just that simple. It's a game of ups and downs. Can you survive the swings? And that's just being patient, being smart with your bankroll, things like that we'll continue to talk about here on Woodward Bets. But today, Scott, we got a lot to get to. Every Tuesday, we kind of go over the waiver wire for the season-long leagues, who's the ads out there. So we'll certainly cover that. We'll take a look at some of the early lines in the NFL, see if we can identify some things that we can take advantage of. A couple NBA games on the docket tonight. We got college basketball starting to get into full swing. So we'll talk some Michigan State here. So a lot to get to. First of all, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Woodward Bets. We're going to continue to post more and more things there, more and more information, news type things. So make sure you're following us there. Also, follow the network at Woodward Sports. And I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of the show, and that's Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys are going over to Underdog Fantasy and checking it out. Something there for everybody. Scott, you know, Underdog, a great product. There's football, there's basketball, there's everything there. Quick best ball drafts. Literally can do a draft in minutes. There's ways to parlay up things like player props in all the different sports. And obviously, the more you pick, the more your odds go up. So buy-ins as low as $1 up to the high ends for the ballers out there as well. And we got a special offer for you. So from us here at Woodward Bets, all you got to do is use our promo code WSN. That's going to get you $10 free to use at Underdog Fantasy on a $10 deposit. So make sure you guys go and check it out today. Download it on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code WSN. So Scott, riding high from last night. We got our KMA segment tomorrow. That's every Wednesday. Our sit starts every Friday. But again, you're feeling good here in the NFL. Like I said, you almost took down 2 seats. So what's the plan now? We're going to continue to go after these qualifiers, and an early look at Week 10 looks like another fun slate of games. So what's the plan? We're going to continue more King of the Beach. We're going after some of the big qualifiers. What's your upcoming plan here for some of these qualifiers before Q season wrapping up here pretty shortly?
Yeah, gonna have to go after the big one there on FanDuel and DraftKings. DraftKings is a little bit bigger the prize pool, but the FanDuel one is definitely one that I want to get out to. Arizona, I believe, is the destination. So, Chris, I got to keep them weekends open. You never know what might pop up here, when you do ship a queue, but you can never have enough queues. I know, in the business, we all say that those are very expensive endeavors chasing those queues, but and they are, by the way, very expensive. But if you do hit them, I've had a lot of success in them in the past when you get there. I've had, like I said, I came in 6th a few years back, won 150K. Been to the Playboy Mansion a few times, so always a lot of fun to get to go. And it's like a huge party, as you know, Chris. I mean, you get all these guys that you virtually are playing against every day, in whether it be whatever sport. You get to see all their names, and after a while, you've been to a few, you get to know these guys, and it seems like all the drinkers seem to migrate over to the bar. We're always having fun. So definitely a lot of fun. If you guys have never been to one, I highly recommend trying to get to one, but very tough to get to, and I am ecstatic about it, Chris. Yes, absolutely. And then I did hit a 4-team parlay yesterday, which paid really nice. I had the over in that Laker game, and then I went with Beastie's 2 picks. He said he literally, Chris, would bet his house on it, on the over of that New York Ranger game, and it went over quite easily. So I think he had 8 goals, I believe, in that game, and it was only over 5.5. And then he also called the Freiermuth anytime touchdown, which was 3-1 odds. So that all worked out pretty well. So hey, anytime we can have a night like that, definitely makes it a little easier hopping it out of the bed this morning. You know what? I didn't even need my coffee this morning. I was already fired up when I got up.
Yeah, nothing better than that. Waking up and you're like, yep, shipped the seat last night. I hit a parlay last night. It was a good night. So I love to hear it. Thanks again to Beastie for sitting in yesterday, giving the people some winners. But let's turn the page here to today, Scott. So let's start. We're not going to dig super deep into college basketball here, but we want to talk Kansas and Michigan State here on this opening night. Kansas ranked number 3 in the country, 4.5 point spread here in favor of Kansas. Looks like some 4s out there as well if you're on the Kansas side. But this thing opened up at 5.5, has been bet down here. So, Scott, thoughts on this game? Again, Kansas opened up as heavy favorites, top 5 team in the country. Michigan State, we'll see what kind of team they are, but generally under Izzo, a pretty damn good team here. Total sitting at 141 in this one. So, quick thoughts here before we dive into the NFL. I want to give some love to some of the local teams here with Sparty tipping off tonight against Kansas.
Yeah, love me some college basketball. I especially March Madness coming up. That's always something that is a lot of fun, especially those first couple days of the tournament. But usually here at the beginning of the year, Chris, we see it with the Izzo teams. It always seems like they start slow. It seems like they get out in these games against some of these better teams and they get rolled. So, I'm just going to be in the mindset that that's usually the case. That's usually the MO with these Tom Izzo teams and the Spartans. So I'm actually going to bet on Kansas tonight. It's actually one of my favorite plays. Like I said, we've just seen it over and over. Sparty's come out of the gate. They don't do so well. And, Kansas is definitely going to be a tough game for them. So I'm going to roll with Kansas here tonight and just kind of go with the trend. It seems like all these Izzo teams kind of stumble out of the gate.
Yeah, it's a good point. And look at some of those trends. The trend and the thing that remains the same is the coach. So, you can say, well, the team changes year to year. Well, maybe it's a coaching thing that gets them off. So, I see it. It worries me that it opened 5.5. It's been bet down, which means there's some support on the Sparty side. But in your camp, you're getting a better number now. Again, -4 is available as I look right now on DraftKings. Points bet, there's a -4. Bet Rivers, they're 4.5. Caesars has a 4. So there are some good numbers out there. Still a lot of 4.5s as well if you're after Michigan State. Scott, I'm going to go with the over in this game. I think both these two teams are going to be able to score the basketball here. Kansas, one of those teams that can put 80, 90 points on the board, no problem. And I think Sparty's going to have a pretty good offense this year as well. So generally early in the year, it can be ugly. The scoring can be at a premium, but defensively, it can be a mess as well. So you got to look at both sides of things, that teams aren't going to be playing as crisp on both sides of the ball. So maybe the defense is lacking a little bit here tonight. I think we get a higher scoring game in this one. So again, total's been bet down as well, but it's down to a number that I think is very attackable at 140, 140.5. 140 is the lowest I could find at points bet. So don't disagree with your Kansas play there, but I like the total and the over in this one. We'll save the NBA for the end of the show. Just 3 games there. So we'll give you some thoughts DFS-wise. And see if we can find some best bets for you in the NBA. Keep that record going. But, Scott, let's dig into the NFL here. Let's start with injuries. We always have the aftermath. Let's just do a quick recap of what we saw Monday night. I know you guys covered some of the things that we saw on Sunday. A weird week. I mean, you guys talked about it yesterday. Buffalo losing to Jacksonville, Denver beating Dallas. I mean, there was just some crazy games all around. But last night, thoughts on the game? I mean, Pittsburgh gets out to a big lead. Chicago, impressive in their comeback. Justin Fields, probably the best game he's had as a pro. We had David Montgomery back in the lineup. The Freiermuth call was great. He had a good game. So Pittsburgh ends up surviving at the end there with a late field goal. But overall, pretty entertaining game. Started out kind of slow. Looked like it was going to be a blowout. You got to give Fields and Chicago some credit for fighting back in that game last night.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of looking at it from a perspective of a Lions fan. I mean, the Steelers are the next Lions opponent. Obviously, they're going to be on a short week now coming off that Monday night. They're going to have to obviously they get a home game against the Lions, but man, Najee Harris is good. I mean, the more I watch that kid is something else, man. That kid is just there's just so many times I saw him break some tackles that you thought, oh man, he's stuffed behind the line, and then man, he wiggles his way out of there somehow. I like watching that kid. He's an upcoming star, that's for sure. Hopefully he can stay healthy. I'm a little concerned how much they do give him the ball. But, I think the Lions are going to have their work cut out for him trying to stop him. Obviously knowing, as we've talked before, how much the Lions have struggled against the run. So, they got their work cut out for him trying to stop him. But, kind of exciting game there. I just kind of getting down to the end there. Mooney had that long touchdown, and he caught that second one there at the end. And I know Chris, you and I were kind of texting back and forth there while I was sweating out that Q win. And then when Mooney scored that second touchdown, I did kind of pretty much have a sigh of relief at that point. Even though that one guy did pass me for that second one, I still thought I was going to end up passing him at the end. But that Mooney touchdown, I was just hoping it didn't go to Allen Robinson or Cole Kmet or something like that, because it really would have wiped me out at that point. But definitely an exciting game. And then, Chris, didn't they hit the crossbar with like a few seconds left with that 66-yarder? So, of course, it bounces out for them with the Lions. The ball takes a funny hop when it hits the front of the crossbar and goes over. So, kind of a crazy night. And they always say Pittsburgh is not a spot either that's very good for kickers. So to see him even have a shot at that 66-yarder, and I thought it was actually going to go. But, definitely a good game. One of the better ones we've seen on Monday night in a while.
So does that give you hope as a Lions fan that they can go in and do anything? I know I probably already know your answer, and I know most people's answer here, but it looked like Chicago is going to get blown out. They fight back, and maybe you don't have a Justin Fields or Darnell Mooney, but you mentioned short week. The Lions coming off a bye week. Can they possibly go to Pittsburgh and I won't even say win? Are they going to be competitive here? Is this going to be another blowout?
Well, I mean, so right now the spread's at 9, and right now 61% of the money's been coming in on the Lions at this point. So seems like the general consensus is that is too many points. But, Chris, I'd really be concerned about Najee Harris. Now, we did see Claypool. He did hop off the field a little bit there at the end, so that's definitely a huge weapon for them that they could potentially be without. I don't know if it was that serious, but he did hobble off. But, I don't care how dusty and rusty old Big Ben is there. He doesn't look very mobile anymore. He got sacked quite a bit. I don't know if the Lions are going to be able to get to him, but man, Najee Harris just scares me as a Lions fan. So I don't know if they're going to be able to contain him. At this point, just kind of looking at it, I think I would probably lean the under in this game because I do think the Lions are going to have to use Swift quite a bit here if they're going to have any sort of chance. But it's going to be tough. I did hear a press conference today with Dan Campbell, and he actually said this week for Pittsburgh, he wants to try to go over the top a little bit more. They want to try to go deep. So don't know if that's just a missed signal kind of going across over to Pittsburgh or if he truly does want to try to go over the top a little bit more. But yeah, I think they're going to have their work cut out for us. If we get behind, it's going to be some tough sledding for the Lions.
Yeah, I think you're right. Najee Harris probably in a very good spot here. The Pittsburgh defense probably in a good spot. If that's true, I mean, is it Khalif Raymond? I mean, who exactly is the deep threat here in this offense is what I want to know. They quickly shunned away any thought of bringing in Odell Beckham, which I thought was the right move. Not a guy you need to bring in this scenario. Sure, he's talented, but also has shown that he can be somewhat of a cancer in a locker room. So you're trying to establish a culture here. Last thing you need is a guy like that coming in. So I know there were some Lions fans excited. They got the number one waiver priority. Let's bring in Odell Beckham, but that is not going to happen. So we'll continue to keep an eye on that. But let's get into some of these injuries here this week, Scott. We got a long list like we always seemingly do every Tuesday. We'll start with James Robinson. We saw him miss that game against Buffalo, and somehow, some way, Jacksonville beats Buffalo. So probably the most stunning upset we've had all season long. But sounds like James Robinson going to be back in that lineup in Week 10. So they're optimistic about that. Going back to last night, Allen Robinson suffered a hamstring injury late in that game. So we'll have to keep an eye on him here in Week 10. Zach Wilson of the Jets expect to participate in practice tomorrow, but may not play. So unless he's fully healthy, they're not ready to roll him out there. They do have some options there, some guys that have played well while he is out. Damian Harris, I had to leave that game. I saw Ramondre Stevenson get some run there, so we'll see what his status is here as we move throughout the week. Zach Moss of the Bills going through the concussion protocol. So this one I don't sound very optimistic. Obviously would be a good spot for Devin Singletary. He's always played well when Zach Moss has missed games. Chris Carson, this one, a name we haven't talked about in a while, Scott, dealing with a neck injury. He's also expected back at practice tomorrow on Wednesday, so we'll keep an eye on his situation. Matthew Stafford dealing with a little bit of a minor ankle injury. They don't seem too concerned. Sean McVay said he should be fine. Rob Gronkowski, this one continues to plague Tampa Bay. Still dealing with that back injury. We saw him have to leave that game early. Feels like they rushed him back. Doesn't sound like he's going to be available here in Week 10. This next one, a big one, Scott. Chase Edmonds. We saw basically play a few. I think he played one snap or one series. Dealing with an ankle injury. Sounds like he may go on the IR with a high ankle sprain, which means a minimum of 3 weeks. We saw James Conner go absolutely nuclear last week. Pretty much needed him if you were going to win anything in DFS last week. So looks like he's going to be set up for success here over the next couple of weeks. So maybe in season long, if your league mates are napping, you can go out and maybe try to get James Conner. I know he's coming off a huge game. I don't even hate to sell high if you can move up and get a premium running back for him. So can kind of play both sides of the fence there with James Conner. Corey Davis of the Jets expected back next week against Buffalo, so we haven't seen him in a few weeks. Also, Michael Gallup of Dallas expected to return this week. Kyler Murray still trying to deal with this ankle injury. Sounds like he's going to try to play in Week 10 against Carolina, but we don't know that yet. We'll continue to keep an eye on that. Russell Wilson has been cleared, so he will be back for Week 10 against Green Bay. We'll have to continue to look at Aaron Rodgers. Will not be able to be activated until the Saturday before that game. So if he's ready to go, tests are negative, he should be able to return. So that'll be a fun game, Seattle and Green Bay. And lastly, back to Tampa Bay, Antonio Brown still in a walking boot here. So things are not getting better for Antonio Brown. So Scott, I'm out of breath here. A lot of injuries there to cover. So what stands out there? A lot of big names on that list, either going on the injured reserve, missing some time, or potentially returning to their team's lineups this week.
Yeah, another one too. I think we got to mention is I think Nick Chubb went into the COVID
Correct.
protocol today too. So that's another one. Do we got Dearness Johnson season again this week? So looks like we're going to be lined up for that. So that's another one that we're going to have to definitely pay attention to. The Stafford one is one that I hope for my Rams bets that the ankle isn't something that he's going to be dealing with as time goes on here. But he had a Lioness type game last week, as we saw. So definitely hope he can get it back going. But Chris, I do have some Chris Carson on a few of my teams, season long teams. So really glad to get him back. Hopefully he can get back into Chris Carson type numbers that we've seen in the past and get back to being the lead back for Seattle. And then with Wilson coming back, man, that offense might be something that we might have to pay a little bit of attention to just because they've been so quiet, especially without Wilson. So maybe we can get a situation here in DFS in a good spot here that we might get a little lower owned than we would have if those guys were plugging along through the season. So just kind of something to keep in mind here. But yeah, definitely interested too in keeping my eyes on James Robinson. I got him in a couple spots. Could not even think about picking up Carlos Hyde there. I just don't want no part of that, but do feel comfortable with James Robinson running the ball for the Jags. But yeah, Chris, it does seem like something we've been seeing every week, all these injuries. I don't know if it's just, maybe the lack of training camp that they had, a shorter week. But as I've said before and kind of mentioned, I'm really curious to see how the end of this season goes, especially with some of these teams with their better players and that maybe are already set to be in the playoffs. Are we going to start seeing some of these teams in week 17, week 18, sitting some of these players that, they are going to need, especially some of these running backs? It's going to be interesting. I know in the past we've seen it for maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but I'm really curious to see how this is going to change. Are we going to get like an NBA type scenario where these guys are just resting just to rest? So, going to be interesting as the season moves on. Hopefully, all our season long playoffs are not affected by that. But definitely something to keep in mind is this is the first season we've had this 17 game season.
Yeah, it just continues to pile up. You mentioned Nick Chubb, Demetric Felton also testing positive. So it's no Kareem Hunt there either. It's basically Dearness Johnson is the only healthy running back on that roster right now. Now, tough matchup with New England this week, but certainly a guy we have to look at. Tua, another guy, we'll see. Game time decision in Week 10 against Baltimore, still dealing with that finger injury. He was a late scratch on Sunday morning, and then Baltimore. We have Sammy Watkins returning to practice today. Latavius Murray, not so much. He remains out on practice today for the Ravens. So the injuries will continue to update you throughout the week here. And hopefully we get some of these names back. But, Scott, let's talk some waiver wires here for Week 10. Some interesting names on this list, highlighted by some wide receivers, I think kind of rue the day here this week. We got guys like Brandon Ayuk of the Niners, a big game, 6 for 89 and a touchdown last week on 8 targets. So I know this guy's been very, very frustrating. We've seen him, Scott, pop up on some of these drop lists, and I think we've both said to kind of pump the brakes on that. This kid's got a lot of talent. I don't know what it is that they're doing there, whether he has to prove himself, whether it's him just not playing like the guy we saw last season, but too much talent to just kind of toss aside on the waiver wire. I know sometimes you're in a pinch. You got to make things happen, but he's somebody that's available in 40% of leagues out there. So he is the top ad along with Elijah Moore. We saw have that massive game against the Colts, available in 73% of leagues. So these two guys, I think, certainly highlight the list here. Donovan Peoples-Jones of Cleveland, we know is going to step into a bigger role without Odell Beckham. Saw him catch a long touchdown. Obviously, a local boy here, Michigan product, was very good with the Wolverines. Maybe starts to get more opportunity there with Cleveland. So let's just start with those three. Put those three in order. Who are your favorites there? Are you going after all of them? What's the case here for these three receivers here? Ayuk, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Elijah Moore.
Yeah, I'd have to say Ayuk would be the guy that if I needed some wide receiver help. I mean, they got they got the Rams, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Seattle, and Cincinnati in the next 5 games. So I think he's got some pretty good opportunities coming up, so I definitely like some Brandon Ayuk. And then you mentioned Elijah Moore. I mean, this rookie's had 10 PPR points in 3 straight games, so just something to kind of keep an eye on there. It seems like he's earning his stripes over there in that Jet offense, even though it's not all that great. But hey, targets are targets, and especially when you're fishing for any kind of help, especially during some bye weeks and as many injuries we've seen. Definitely need to keep in tune there. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones, the Michigan guy here. I mean, obviously we did see him score that really long touchdown last week. I think that volume's not going to be there necessarily for him. Obviously, we see them run the ball quite a bit, but who knows? Maybe this week here with the depleted running game, maybe they are going to have to drop back and throw it quite a bit. So maybe even more so as a streamer this week, if you did need a streamer just to play. I mean, yes, I think New England's going to probably try to focus on stopping the run. We do normally like to see where they'll try to take out the best asset for the offense. So I'm going to believe that's what they're going to focus on. So maybe they try to take some deep shots. All we need is one. But yeah, for me, I think it'd be Ayuk would be my top guy.
Yeah, I prefer Ayuk as well. Again, very talented guy. We saw him really take over as that wide receiver one at the end of last season. It's been all Deebo Samuel this season. I know there's competition for targets there with Samuel, with George Kittle back in that lineup, but Garoppolo looking a little bit more comfortable. So I like Ayuk. Elijah Moore was great, and I'm a big believer in Elijah Moore's talent. Let's not forget, Corey Davis has not played here in a couple weeks, so he's expected back. That may take a little bit of the shine off Elijah Moore. I still think he's worth an add, somebody to add to your bench, but counting on him for anything more than maybe a flex position, probably a bit much. And Peoples-Jones, Scott, I love the story. I think he can play in the league. We know he's got some big playability, but this is a Cleveland team that, hey, they want to run the ball. Maybe not. They don't have any running backs left, but they spread the ball out so much. So even when these guys seemingly are in good spots, I thought Jarvis Landry was in a great spot this weekend. The numbers just never seem to be there. Now maybe we get more out of Baker Mayfield in this passing game. So again, I'm not as ecstatic about Peoples-Jones. More so in a dynasty league, I like him than a season-long format. But if you're thin, you need an add. He's certainly in the discussion. I want to add a few names as well. Rashad Bateman's still out there in too many leagues for Baltimore, so he's a guy that you can look at. Van Jefferson, we spoke about him last week with no Deshaun Jackson. And let's not forget Michael Gallup, expected to return to the Dallas passing game, which didn't look great against Denver, Scott, no doubt. I thought it was a great spot for Dallas, and they just didn't do much of anything. But getting Gallup back in that lineup certainly will help. Let's talk some running backs now. Always a position people are desperate for. So headlining the way, I think, is Devontae Freeman of Baltimore. We just talked about Latavius Murray probably not returning this week, not practicing today, so not looking good for him. So he's still available in about half the leagues out there. Ty Johnson, another running back for the Jets, kind of splitting things with Michael Carter. And then Eno Benjamin of Arizona. Sounds like they want to get this guy involved. If Chase Edmonds is out, it's not going to be James Conner doing all the heavy lifting. Eno Benjamin kind of salted some things away there at the end of that game. You also have guys like Jordan Howard, who's kind of taking control in Philadelphia. Ramondre Stevenson, we mentioned, with the Damian Harris injury, a name to keep an eye on there. So quite a few running backs available, Scott. I don't think any of these guys are league winners, but guys that you can plug in as an RB2 of flex to get you through some injuries or some of these bye weeks.
Yeah, Freeman was the interesting one. I had to laugh a little bit with Beastie yesterday when I said, what was this, 2017? We had Freeman score. We had Le'Veon Bell got to the end zone. It was just like, come on, what's going on here? But, yeah, I think Freeman's interesting for the Ravens. Obviously, we know that they like to run. But I mean, he can catch the ball out of the backfield too, which I think is definitely interesting. I think that kind of bumps him up a little bit. But Ty Johnson, Chris, I ended up throwing away Michael Carter in a couple of leagues. It's just like, they're on shitty offenses. I just really don't like keeping running backs that are splitting carries that are on shitty offenses. So, that being a team like the Jets or Miami, somebody like that, it just seems like, if I need them for a week or two, fine. it's not a guy I really want to rely on. I just think it's too much a boomer bust that you really don't have much of a ceiling. I feel the floor may be there as far as points, but I just don't ever feel like I have a very good floor with guys like that. So I think I'd rather have a guy like maybe like Freeman, like we said. Now Benjamin is interesting. I'd like to kind of see how that is going to play out. But I mean, if you got an extra spot on your team, I can't argue for adding Benjamin to your team. I think that's more of a kind of sit and wait type approach. I mean, he was a 7th round pick, so it's not like he was highly touted coming in with the draft. So, but you never know. I mean, we've seen Connor get hurt so many times in the past. So, I mean, this dude is just literally one play or two away from potentially being the starter, and then the next week he would be the top waiver pick. So maybe get it on a little bit early, and maybe bank on the fact that Connor has been brittle as peanut butter or peanut brittle sometimes. So, yeah, I think that might be a decent ad stash.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was talented. Yes, he was a 7th round pick out of Arizona State, but this kid can play. He's shown some flashes in the preseason, so it's getting out ahead of things. We always talk about being a few steps ahead. That's one I don't think a lot of people are. Yeah, he'll be in the mix in your waivers, but people will be after some of the bigger names here. Maybe you can slide him through for a couple dollars rather than waiting. We know Connor. It's not a matter of if, Scott. It's when is James Conner going to get hurt. So why not have the next guy in the wings and a very good offense? Another team that I don't know if to say shocking was the word, but to go and win that game in San Francisco was pretty impressive here. So he's certainly a guy you want to look at. Tight ends, another position. We got quite a few names that can help you out there. Tyler Conklin of Minnesota, still available in a ton of leagues. We got Logan Thomas of Washington. Dan Arnold with Jacksonville has been solid. So tight end, certainly a spot. And if Pat Freiermuth's out there, you saw last night, there is no more Eric Ebron. Pat Freiermuth, as a rookie, looking very, very impressive. Might be the next in a long line of successful Pittsburgh tight ends. So if he is somehow out on the waiver wire in some of the shallower leagues, he certainly vaults to the top of this list. But Scott Conklin, Dan Arnold, Logan Thomas, we have some viable options here at an ugly tight end position.
Yeah, I like Conklin. I think our boy Easy said he went to high school with Conklin, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a guy there that definitely can get you a touchdown. I prefer guys like this more in, like, if we're playing DFS on a site like FanDuel, where touchdowns are so important. But I mean, Conklin might be a guy you might be able to use this week. They do get the Chargers, so maybe we're looking at it looks like Njoku went for 7 and 150 against them. So you never know. So and Jack Doyle, Chris, is another guy that ended up scoring. It was a 1-yard shovel pass, I believe. And I know Mo Alley Cox is there, but I know it's risky. But they do get Jacksonville, and they have given up quite a bit to tight ends. So Jack Doyle might be a guy, if you need a tight end streamer this week, that you might be able to look at. But yeah, definitely a few guys out there that you can use. I know the Dan Arnold there has been pretty popular in DFS as a cheap punt guy at tight end. And Chris, when I was reviewing my lineup yesterday with everybody, I did pay up at tight end with Andrews, and it just doesn't seem like in DFS that we've really had those huge scores, those Kelsey-like scores, those Mark Andrews scores, where these guys are getting 25 and over 20 points. It just seems like at this point for me, it's almost worth just to pay down and try to get 10 points, near 10 points at that tight end, and then use that position, and use that extra salary to maybe get you up from a mid-level back or mid-level receiver up to a stud. So I think after this last week here, Chris, I think these low-end tight ends are a guy that I'm going to have to start keeping my eyes on a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Kelsey, he's still probably the best tight end. We're just not getting those huge games. Darren Waller, another guy. We haven't had much Kittle this season. We've seen decent games out of guys like Andrews and Goddard. It's been a wasteland. So if you can find one of these cheaper guys in DFS that can rack up some receptions in your season-long league, kind of stream it the same way you would a quarterback. I love that, when I don't have the stud quarterback, kind of play it week by week. There's always great options on the waiver wire in most week, and I think you get the same at tight end. So wanted to highlight some of the names that'll be out there in your guys' leagues. Defense streamers, I think there's certainly a case to be made for quite a few teams this week. Baltimore, You got Tennessee at home against New Orleans this week. The Colts are at home against Jacksonville, even a Denver at home against Philadelphia. So defensive streamers are certainly in play here as well. Another position, I like to stream, but I also like to try to find teams, Scott, that set up well for a couple weeks, then you don't have to worry about it. So make sure you're looking ahead at some of these defenses and checking out the next 2 to 3 weeks where you can kind of solidify that spot. So let's take a look at some of the early lines here, Scott. Again, I'm not going to rip through all of these lines here, but we love to look at the early lines here in Woodward Bets and see if there's anywhere that we can find a place to attack before the line moves. So looking through everything here, is there anything that stands out? We got the Thursday night game with Baltimore, Miami. Got a double-digit spread with the Colts here. Cleveland, are they in trouble without Nick Chubb? Dallas, a big home favorite. Buffalo, another massive road favorite. So anywhere you want to attack here early in the week before these lines start to move.
Yeah, there's one spot. I mean, just kind of looking at what teams were really playing some big games. And I mean, you look at the Tennessee Titans. They traveled all the way over there to LA, and they ended up beating the Rams, as we saw. But I think here in this game here with the Titans, I think the Titans are in trouble here. So I think I'm going to be looking at the New Orleans Saints a little bit, and I do like them here on the money line, actually. Right now they're getting 2.5 points. I think Tennessee might get bet up a little bit higher, so I think I might wait a little bit there. But I do like New Orleans. I think Tennessee is going to be in a tough spot going back home there. And then, another one I'm looking at are the Bills. I think the Bills are going to be a little bit upset with themselves, obviously playing a terrible game out there in Jacksonville. But now they get another crappy team with the Jets. And this time they're favored by 13.5. And before that gets to 14, Chris, I think I'm going to hop on Buffalo. I'm a believer in that team. I think they're really good. I mean, we see it in the NFL. These teams are going to stumble from time to time. But I don't expect them to do this 2 weeks in a row. So I really expect them to put one here on Buffalo. And then another one I was just kind of looking at here with this Nick Chubb news. Not sure if, we want to hop on a team like the Patriots without a Nick Chubb. Right now they're 2.5 at home. Gonna have to keep my eye on that. But I think the Patriots are definitely interesting in this spot as well.
Normally, we're on the same page. I'm going to disagree. I really like the Titans in this spot. They continue to get disrespected. They continue to beat some of the best teams in the league, and it sounds like New Orleans is going to be starting Trevor Siemian again at quarterback, who, sure, he looked good, but they didn't get it done in that game. So to go on the road now and play a team that continually is beating the best of the best in the league, another impressive win without Derrick Henry. I mean, they run old man Adrian Peterson out there, Scott, and still get the win against the Rams. So defense is starting to play a little bit better. I think this is a good spot for Tennessee. So that one's already moved to -3 at most places, but you can still get some -105s on that number out there. The other one I really like is the Chargers at home. I know the Vikings, impressive game last week, but the Chargers, to me, still one of the better teams in the AFC. Come into Philadelphia and win. Now going back home, I think Minnesota a little bit overrated here. So if I can get the Chargers at -2.5 before that thing goes 2-3, certainly something I want to take advantage of. So a couple smaller spreads I'm eyeing up. Not a ton of stuff that jumped off the page. Obviously, we have a lot of games. I don't even have lines at Arizona. We're waiting on Kyler Murray. Green Bay, Seattle, we're waiting on both quarterbacks there. So more lines still to come in the NFL. So anything else here, Scott, on the lines, on the injuries, on the waiver wire? Talked a lot of NFL here today. Anything we forgot to mention before we talk a little NBA to wrap up the show?
Yeah, that Raiders line's kind of interesting too. As you were talking, I was just kind of looking through there. The Raiders getting 2.5, 3 points at home against the Chiefs. As much as the Chiefs have been struggling, the Raiders, I got to believe, are just going to be waiting for the Chiefs to come in there. The Chiefs are just one of those teams you're going to generally get the best side of their opponents. So I kind of looking at the Raiders here too against the Chiefs. It seems like they're just a favorite of the general public. So I think that's just a team that generally gets you might be able to get a little bonus bonus if you go with the Raiders. So kind of looking at that one too. I might tease that one up a little bit and get that. If it's at the 2.5, I think I might try to get that up to the 8.5 in the tease.
All right, let's talk some NBA. Huge slate of games last night. Just 3 games on the docket here tonight. So we have Milwaukee in Philadelphia. We have Atlanta traveling to take on the Utah Jazz. And we have Portland and the LA Clippers here tonight, Scott. So one of those, DFS I always mention. NBA, I like 5, 6, 7 games, a little bit more. But 3, it's at least it's not 1 or 2, I guess is the way to do it. So still some big tournaments out there. Still ways you can get different with 3. So let's start DFS. The big story, obviously, Andre Drummond. No Joel Embiid once again here tonight. But finally, the site's got him priced up where it's not such a free square. But still think he's in a good spot here tonight. Other side of that game, Giannis. I mean, it doesn't take you much to tell you to play Giannis. The guy's a stud if you can afford him. Get him in those lineups. I think there's more value in that game. Bobby Portis, Korkmaz, a lot of injuries on both of these teams. George Hill in play once again. So that game going to be popular with studs, with value. How do we get different tonight? What other guys are you looking at here in Tuesday night in NBA DFS?
Yeah, I mean, them 76ers, I think they might need you to suit up for them, Chris. I mean, man, I think Seth Curry played almost 41 minutes. Korkmaz played 40 minutes. Maxey played 39 minutes. Drummond played almost 39 minutes last night. So, I mean, that's going to be tough. But, yeah, Drummond's a guy you're going to definitely have to start out with. But the rotation is just so small for the 76ers. I mean, the minutes are there. So those are guys that you obviously got to look at. I don't know about Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis is a guy, too, that might be interesting for the Bucks, too. So I'm not 100% sure if Giannis is a guy that you got to play. Maybe on DK, he might be a little bit more tough to jam in there. But FanDuel, it should be pretty easier just because generally they're a little bit looser with the pricing. But, yeah, I think Giannis, especially in FanDuel, is a guy where I'm going to start. But just kind of looking around, looks like some of these 76ers, again, are going to be or some of the value is going to be.
Yep, that game will be very popular. So some pieces outside of that game, some mid-range plays like Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson of the Clippers, I think are ways that you can go. Jackson, I've been playing incredible. Damian Lillard still feels too cheap out there. So I like him tonight against the Clippers. Rudy Gobert is in a good spot here against Atlanta. So those guys I think will be a lot less owned than some of these other bigger names. I do like Portis for value, but he's going to be very popular. We know Drummond's going to continue to be popular. So ways to get different. Again, Damian Lillard, Terrence Mann, a few of the names I like, Reggie Jackson, guys like that. So let's wrap up the show, Scott, with our best bet segment here at Woodward Bets. 4-0 last night. Let's try to continue the run to open up the week here on Tuesday night. So not a ton of stuff for us to bet on, but we do have college basketball. We have the 3 games in the NBA. If you want to hit the hockey rink like Beastie did, I can certainly do that. So, Scott, best bets Tuesday night. Who do you got?
I got 2 of them. I am going to go with Kansas minus the 4 against the Sparties. As I said, we've always seen these Michigan State teams kind of stumble out of the gate, and they obviously get better as the season goes on, and then they get prepared to go into the NCAA tournament. So I'm just going to go with that trend where it seems like every year, the first few games, they generally get a mollywhopping put on them. And I think Izzo actually likes that. I think it's motivation for his team, actually. And then, Chris, my second bet is going to be in the NBA tonight. And I'm going to roll with the Utah Jazz minus the 8 over Atlanta. I just think Utah's playing really well. The Atlanta's struggling 3-7. So I'm going to roll with the Jazz minus the 8 out there in Utah.
All right, I'm going to give you 3 tonight. I'm going to start with the over in the Michigan State-Kansas game. I think we'll get a ton of points in that game. Under, let's see, we'll go 140.5 is the best I can find on that number. I'm going to roll with the Bucks here tonight. I think they're in a good spot here, like you mentioned. Philadelphia, yes, they're playing well, but no Joel Embiid. Coming off a tough game. Everybody's tired. The Bucks, not a ton of travel in this game, just coming from Washington. So I think the Bucks handle business here tonight. -6 in a lot of books out there. So I will take the Milwaukee Bucks. And then I'm also going to go with the Clippers tonight at home against Portland. There are some -2.5s out there. So I've seen them right now at DraftKings and FanDuel. A lot of 3s out there, but if you can find that 2.5, certainly makes a big difference when you can find a good price. So again, over in the Kansas-Michigan State game, Milwaukee -6 in Philadelphia, and the LA Clippers at home tonight, -3 against Portland. And that will be our best bets for tonight. So 5 of them on the board, Scott. Hopefully we can go a crisp 5-0, 4-1, something productive here for the people. But final thoughts here, Tuesday night. So what do we got?
Let's stay hot. Let's keep some lunch money. Actually, get done here, I'm going to have to go and spend some of that lunch money I made last night on the good night. But, yeah, looking forward to rolling what we're going to be 5-0 after tomorrow. So hopefully we can keep that hot streak going and keep that lunch money piling up.
Absolutely. So hopefully that board behind you tomorrow says 9-0 over the last 2 days. That qualifier can stay up there. We hope to add some check marks to that column as well. But we want to thank each and every one of you for checking out the show. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure you're sharing the show. Let your buddies know we're trying to get this thing off the ground. Let your girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, let them know. And join Woodward Bets every 6 to 7 during the week, every Saturday morning talking college football, and, of course, every Sunday morning talking NFL football. So Wednesday will be our KMA. That is tomorrow. We're also going to break down the NFL on Wednesday. I believe we're starting that this week. We're going to give you some time for that show to be up, breaking down each and every game on Wednesday. So it gives you a few days to listen to that one. And then Sunday will be more of a listener-type question show. We'll break down the pending questions, still looking at some of our best bets and things for Sunday. So we're going to try something a little bit different. As always, let us know what you guys like, what you don't like, what you want to see. We are here for you guys. So make sure you're following us on Twitter. Your sit-start questions, you can send those in at Woodward Bets, and we'll cover those every Friday. For Scott, for our boys behind the glass, Easy and Spencer, welcome, my man. I am Beer. We are Woodward Bets. Thank you for watching. Good luck with your bets tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.